Welcome to episode 132 of the Forward from 50 podcast, where we interview people over 50 pursuing new direction for their lives. It's an opportunity for men and women to tell their stories, their way, and in their own words. I'm Greg Gerber, the founder of Forward from 50, and your host for today's show. In this episode, I talk with Don Cote. He's an experienced entrepreneur and coach who has dedicated his second act to helping other seasoned citizens to live with greater health, purpose, meaning, and joy. Here are some key takeaways from our conversation. First, it's essential that people rebuild after loss. Don shared how he went from early financial success in real estate to losing everything in the 1990s, and how that difficult chapter ultimately shaped his life's mission. Second, Don's Life Works Life Mastery System is a simple 3-step framework he developed from Napoleon Hill's book titled Think and Grow Rich. It helps people achieve their dreams through vision, planning, and excellent execution. Third, purpose matters later in life. Don outlined core areas seniors often struggle with, such as health and fitness, wealth and income, love and romance, meaning and purpose, and how addressing these areas leads to a richer quality of life. Fourth, his Successful Seniors platform is a valuable resource. Don described how his free newsletter, blog, and podcast deliver practical solutions to help older adults to create income, stay active, and maintain a sense of contribution. Finally, connection and contribution plays a big role in the lives of seasoned citizens. Don stressed that meaning and purpose often come from helping others, whether through business, creative work, or volunteering. To tell us more about what gives his life more meaning and purpose, as well as how his Successful Seniors platform is helping others, please welcome entrepreneur Don Cote to the show. Thanks for joining me today, Don. I really appreciate the time. I've wanted to interview you for a long time because you're doing something that I really have a passion for as well. You are helping seasoned citizens to be successful. How did you come up with the idea for this Successful Seniors media?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. I've been also wanting to talk with you as well, because I love what you're doing as well. And your 14-day fast was amazing. I followed the whole thing, and good for you. Most people don't have the ability to do that, but you pulled it off, and it's an inspiration.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So to answer your question back in the 80s, and I know this is going to sound like a long story because we're in the 2025s, but it's not. So back in the 80s, when I was in my 20s, I became very successful as a real estate investor. So I learned how to make money in the 80s, and I learned how to lose it in the 90s, and I did them both really well. And I spent some time, so I lost all my real estate. We had a huge downturn in the early 90s. Lost all my real estate, filed bankruptcy, went through a painful divorce, and ended up homeless. That death spiral stuff was pretty bad. And so I spent some time feeling sorry for myself. That didn't seem to get me anywhere. So I reached out to a guy who had been a mentor to me early in my investing career. I hadn't talked to him in probably 10 years. This was 1995. And I invited him for a cup of coffee. He agreed graciously. And so when we met, I said, so Sammy, I've lost everything. And he said, yeah, you and 80% of our friends, because all the landlords in town knew each other. We owned collectively about 80% of all the property. And he said, you're in good company. I said, yeah, but that doesn't make me feel any better. I can't seem to figure out how to get back on my feet. And he asked me it seemed like the strangest question. He said, have you ever read the book Think and Grow Rich? And I said, sure. And back in 79, I had gotten involved in Amway, and I was on Book of the Month, Tape of the Week Club. And that was the first book they give you. So I read it. And I think it had something to do with my early success in real estate investing. But I had apparently forgotten everything. And so he said, so have you read the book? And I said, sure. And he looked perplexed, and he said, how many times? And I said, well, once. How many times do you have to read a book? And I'm a wise guy, and I'm smarty pants, and I'm broke. So not a good combination. He wasn't amused. And so he said, all the answers you're looking for in that book, I think you should read it again. And then he said, thanks for the coffee. I've got to go. It was like a 7-minute meeting. And he did a Columbo on me. He turned just before he got to the door, and he said, hey, by the way, if you don't get it this time, I just keep reading it till you do. And I remember feeling paralyzed, just like the only guy I knew that could possibly show me how to get back on my feet just walked out the door after giving me some stupid advice. But I got about halfway home and realized he was rich and I was poor, and that was probably a clue, and I probably should get the book. So I did. I went to Barnes & Noble, and I got it, went home, pot of coffee on, read it from cover to cover, and said, darn, I missed it again. And so I read it again and again. The more I read it, the more I became frustrated. Strangely, I knew that he was right. All the answers were in that book, but the book was written as a philosophy of personal achievement. And philosophy just doesn't have a lot of how-to, and I needed somebody to tell me step 1, step 2, step 3. And so I actually went looking for, I thought the book was published in 1937. It was like 1995. Certainly somebody created a step-by-step system that has all the principles embedded in it. And if our listeners, our viewers aren't familiar with it, there's 13 principles in that book that are the most amazing principles in the world when it comes to success.
They're timeless.
After interviewing, the author interviewed over 500 of the world's most successful people to get that data. And principles I learned were things that are always, however, have always been true, are true now, always will be true, work for everybody and they work all the time. It's like principles of physics, momentum and inertia and things like that. You can't deny them. And if you try to work against them, you'll fail. And so if you work in alignment with these principles, you'll succeed. But I needed something that wasn't in the book, and that was a step-by-step system. So after searching for a while and not finding it, I created it. And I remember my friends started asking me, you're really happy, and why? And I showed them my little system. And then they said, will you show us? So I showed them, and then they started having some success. Their friends started asking them how they were doing it. And they asked if I would teach them. And now thousands of people around the world actually have learned the system and use it daily. And I remember in the first workshop, someone asked me, what do you call this thing? And it was so early in the process. I said, I don't know, man, it's just how life works. And so the word LifeWorks stuck, and now it's known as the LifeWorks Life Mastery System. And I taught that to people all over the planet for over 30 years. And so that's the background of what I've been doing that informed what I'm doing today in my quote unquote retirement years.
Okay, very good. Is that system still available if people wanted to subscribe to it or to enroll
It is.
in it?
It is. I wrote a book in 2013 or 14, I think. I updated it just recently. It's called How Life Works. It's on Amazon. I love the book because it tells about my struggles and it tells about the system, and you literally can learn the system from the book. But what I'm really more proud of is the 2 books that came after that. So a couple of years later, I took a group of 11 of my students and I told them if they would keep a daily journal using the system of their result, that they would have enough information to write a chapter in a book, and then we would publish a compilation or an anthology. And it turned out after 9 months, they had enough to write a book each.
Wow.
But they each wrote a chapter, and we released that book. It's called LifeWorks, and the subtitle is Stories of Transformation from Around the World. And then in 2020, during the pandemic, a dozen of my students, we ended up with 10 people that wanted to do the same thing. They wanted to write a chapter. So we wrote a book called LifeWorks, How Our Vision, wow. I can't remember the subtitle. Isn't that funny? But it's on, you'll find it. It's on Amazon. They're all on Amazon. That was another 10 different students that wrote How Our Vision Made Us Unstoppable. That's what it was. Yeah. Those are firsthand testimonies about how the system works. But I'm going to give your audience a sneak peek. The system is embarrassingly simple, and we all already know it. Because if you just look around, you can see it in practice all the time, every day, right? It's 3 simple steps. When you want something, you first have to have a vision in your mind. You have to have a clear picture in your mind about what you want. You can't hit a target you can't see. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is, now that you've got a vision, you turn that into a blueprint or a step-by-step plan to be able to get from where you are to where you want to be. And then the third step is to execute excellently on the plan. So I use this metaphor a lot to help people understand. I love castles for 2 reasons. Every castle is magnificent and every castle is unique, just like people. But if you want to live in a castle, the first thing you need to do is get a picture in your mind. But you'd never live in it if it was just in your mind. So you'd have to go to an architect and have them create a blueprint. And that is the difference between the vision and the blueprint, is the blueprint is specific and measurable. That's the difference. But if the blueprint sat on your desk, you'd never live in the castle. So you need to give that to a master builder. The master builder then executes excellently on the plan, and you end up with a castle. There's only one extra element in there that's important to understand, is that you can't build a castle without a team. And you can't build the life of your dreams without a team either. So being a part of a mastermind team is critical because, as Napoleon points out in the book, the mastermind principle is this: when two or more minds come together in the spirit of harmony towards a definite outcome, a third, more powerful mind, he calls it a cosmic mind, becomes the connecting link to infinite intelligence. So I tell my students, if you had God's phone number, do you think there's any problem you couldn't solve, any obstacle you couldn't overcome, or any resource you couldn't find? Probably not. And it's the equivalent of that. And so in my senior years now, that's what I've decided to do. I want to help seniors to be able to have the second act, be able to do something in their senior years that's creative, that's fun, that makes a difference for other people, and potentially could make them enough money to be able to do that world travel finally and be able to go to those beautiful, amazing restaurants and all that sort of thing. So my goal is to have a legacy that lives on long after I am. So I'm creating a media company that can be run by people after I'm gone.
That's awesome, because too many seasoned citizens are stuck in a rut, it appears. And they get into this rut where all they do is sit at home, watch television, doom scroll through the news, surf social media, etc., wake up, rinse, and repeat. And it's such a waste of their natural talent, learned skills, and unique life experiences.
It's so true. And even if people are more well-to-do, they end up playing shuffleboard, or they go play golf or whatever, which is great. And you should have recreation. But what are you doing to feel like you're making a difference and you're productive and you're creating value in the world? And that's what's missing. And that's what causes early onset dementia. It's what creates there's a tremendous epidemic of depression in seniors. It's really sad. So those things are and as it turns out, Greg, the truth of the matter is the same kind of 6 things that everybody struggles with, seniors struggle with in a unique way. For instance, health and fitness, right? They're struggling with dementia, they're struggling with mobility, but everybody struggles to be able to stay healthy and fit. When you're young and you're working 2 jobs and you've got kids and a house and you can't find the time to exercise and you're on the run, so you're eating fast food instead of eating good, healthy, organic food that you made yourself. So everybody struggles with health and fitness. Everybody struggles with wealth and income. Seniors, it's a different flavor of that because they've got time on their hands, but yet they don't know how to create a business that it will only take them 5 or 10 hours a week to create $2,000 or $3,000, $4,000 or $5,000 a month of passive income. You just don't know how. And so that's something that everybody struggles with. And when you're younger, you're struggling with figuring out should I get another degree? Should I get a master's degree? Do I need a doctorate? And so I can get more money from my job and that sort of thing. So everybody struggles with wealth and income. And then the third thing that everybody struggles with is love and romance, right? I had 2 practice marriages. I got all the mistakes out of the way, stayed single for 7 years so that I could figure out what my wife brilliantly called, my third wife now, my only forever wife, Gabriella. She said that for her, she took some time off a couple of years. She's a faster learner than I am, but took me 7. We both stayed single before we met each other to learn ourselves, right? She calls it, she says you need to know your deal breakers and your must-haves. And so I matched all of hers when she met me, and she matched all of mine, although my list wasn't nearly as clear as hers. And we found out that we were compatible. And compatible doesn't mean the same. It means you fit together perfectly. I tell her she's crazy, but she's my kind of crazy. So like a hand in glove, they're opposites. Right. People say opposites attract, and for the most part, that's true. But they're a group of core values that need to match. So for instance, if she wants to have sex once a day and you're okay with once a year, there's going to be a problem. If she's a saver and you're a spender, it's an issue. So you've got to make sure those core values match, but the things like, do we like the same kind of music or do we like the same kind of food when we go out to eat? Kind of irrelevant. it'd be nice if they match, but they don't have to. But those core values absolutely have to match. And sadly, when people are older and they lose a spouse, they're reluctant to get back in the game. What's a dating app? Okay, so there's some technology that came out since you were dating, right? And it's difficult, and it's challenging, and it's scary. And so these are the things that I help with through my media channels. These are the things I help people in their senior years to be able to overcome and succeed and flourish and enjoy life. So I talk about helping active seniors love life.
That's neat. So you got health and fitness, wealth and income, and love and romance.
Yeah, and there's one more. There's actually 6 altogether, but one more that's really critical, that's a struggle for almost everybody, and that's meaning and purpose.
Yeah.
And that comes back to finding a way to be able to put good out into the world that people compensate you for financially. So you're feeling great. You would get up in the morning and do it for free, but someone cares enough about the value that they're receiving to actually pay you for it. That's the best of both worlds.
I would say that it's possible to get meaning and purpose as well, also through volunteerism, if you've got the means to do that. But it is that meaning and purpose. Would you say that purpose always involves helping others in some way?
Boy, it's been my experience that there are very few things. Some things don't seem like they help people directly, but they do. For instance, I know a gentleman who has up in New England, he has a little fishing shack near the ocean, near a harbor. And there are a bunch of little merchants in these little fishing shacks. And what he does, he's got a little woodworking shop, and he takes really rare woods, sometimes driftwood, and he'll mold it into a piece of art. So it's not anything, it's not an elephant or a giraffe or a walrus or anything like that. It's just this unique, colorful, with all the grains of the wood, and he polishes it really nice, and he'll maybe take a piece and put it on a stick and put it on a platform. And people pay him enormous amounts of money for it because it makes them happy when they look at it. He's enjoying the work itself, but the work itself is actually making somebody else's life richer for it. And so it's not always direct. I mean, it's not like a coach would give you some insights or anything like that, but it does make a difference. And I find that when you're helping other human beings, we're communal people. We need other people in our lives. And if you can see how it directly influences somebody's life and makes it better, that's a feeling that's irreplaceable. Can't get that any way.
I always use as an example 2 different things. You might love gardening, and gardening is a solo kind of thing that you do by yourself. But if you're taking your produce, those flowers, and you're giving them to other people to brighten their days, that's purpose. If you love fishing, that's usually a solo event. But if you take some other person along who would love to learn how to fish, now you've got purpose in that way as well.
We agree.
Yeah. What prompted the idea to come up with Successful Seniors?
Frustration. So my wife is much younger than I am, and she's very energetic. And so she actually, since I've known her in 14 years, we just had our 14th year anniversary, she's never had less than 2 jobs. She usually feels like she's not very productive if she only has 2 jobs. Some of them are volunteers. Like she volunteers about 15 or 20 hours a week right now. But I still call it a job because she's committed. She has to go there. People depend on her. And she probably has had more like 3 jobs and sometimes 4 jobs. So just different things that she does and coaching people in different ways and things like that. So I was waiting for her. I had decided I was going to retire again. I do several things. Retire isn't one of them for sure. And so I was being not such a good husband. I was like, honey, when are you coming home? And I'm like, I know, but I miss you. And so I was like, this is just not right. And so I was like, am I the only senior that feels like he's still not ready to retire? So I started doing some research and found that seniors struggle with the same half a dozen things that everybody struggles with. They just show up differently. Health and fitness becomes more like dementia and mobility issues and things like that. So I thought, what if I can help people find solutions to these issues so they have a higher quality of life? QOL is a term now that's more and more prominent in the media. QOL, quality of life. I did an article recently, and I think you commented on it, and thank you for that. We're talking more about health span these days than we are lifespan. Because
Yes.
if you live to 90, but you're bedridden from 50 to 90, no quality of life there. But if you live to 80 and up to the last second, you're active and out there feeling great and making a difference in the world, that's a health span rather than a lifespan.
Right.
And so quality of life becomes the real issue. And I thought, if I can help people with the information that I have in my head and the ideas that I've been able to help millions of people around the millions, hundreds of thousands, probably about 300,000 people that have been through my courses. So people that I've used this information to help people before, I can help seniors in this particularly unique way. Then I looked for a medium that I would be able to get the information out. And it turns out that I found the newsletter was the ideal way. But I had a little bit of a surprise. I found a platform called Beehive. And Beehive, when you build your newsletter on the platform, they automatically give you a website to post the newsletter as a blog. So you just create it as a newsletter and it instantly becomes a blog and there's nothing you need to do. And then with this flick of a switch, you can turn it into an audio podcast. And now you can upload it to Apple and Amazon Music and YouTube and Spotify. So I was like, I thought it was going to be a newsletter business, but I guess it's a media business. And because I got all these different channels. And so I called it Successful Seniors Media. And fortunately for me, the URL was available, successfulseniorsmedia.com. And so if you go to that web address, you can sign up for my free newsletter and then you can listen to it. If you want to listen while you're driving, that's cool. Or you want to read the blog and make comments on the blog, because on the newsletter, you'd have to reply to my email, which a lot of people do. But it's just become a wonderful way to spread the word about all the solutions that seniors are struggling with.
And this is entirely free to consumers.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely free.
Are there any courses and things like that they can take on this platform?
Yes. So what I've tried to do is just keep my ear to the ground, and I respond to every single one of the comments and email replies that I get. And what it seems like is the one thing that so many people are struggling with, even though people have done maybe are okay financially, they can pay their bills. They're not able to do some of the things that they thought they would be able to do in retirement, like maybe take a world cruise or travel to Europe or Asia or something like that, or even go out to more expensive restaurants and really enjoy life at a higher level. And they're not able to do that. And so adding maybe a few hundred or even a few $1,000s a month of passive income would allow them to be able to just think about it. $2,000 a month doesn't seem like a lot, but that's $24,000 a year. That gets you a lot of going out to eat. And so what I've decided to do in the process of creating a course that helps people be able to generate that extra income in about 5 to 10 hours a week. They can generate a few hundred and then a few $1,000s, and they can take it as far as they want it to go. But it also helps people with meaning and purpose. So I recommend that people take what they already know, what they already love, what they've already spent years developing a content in their mind, their own talents and success skills and all that sort of thing, and then sharing them with people that are searching for those answers like I'm doing with Successful Seniors. I'm going to provide a course that if I were to sell it or if I were to teach it outright, I'd probably charge $1,000 for it, but we're probably going to put it in the newsletter for probably like $97 with a money back guarantee. If somebody looks at it and goes, no, that's not for me, no problem. I just want to see if I can provide a way for people to go, hey, this is fun. I'm doing something fun for 5 or 10 hours a week. And oh my gosh, my bank account has more money in it. So wouldn't that be awesome? That's what I'm trying to do.
And that's right, because it doesn't require any special skills then. It's something they're already known for, they're passionate about. They might have done it as a career, or it might have been a hobby that they pursued for many years that they are wanting to share what they know with other people. And they don't need to know it all. All they need to know is that they're 2 or 3 steps ahead of the other person who wants to learn.
Amen to that. Amen to that. What's ironic is when I launched the media business, I immediately started thinking about, I have another idea for another newsletter. And I'm a Harley enthusiast and I've ridden Harleys all over this country. And so I was like, maybe we just go on a Harley ride, we get a helmet cam and then we do, and I'm a scuba diver. I've been scuba diving all over the world, right? So maybe we'll do one on scuba diving. And I'm like, whoa, this is retirement, right? So for our listeners and our viewers, don't worry if you're like, I don't know what to talk about. And by the way, little secret, spoiler alert, you're not even going to, if you did a newsletter, you wouldn't even have to write anything. AI can take your ideas and turn them into really quality content. And what I do in this course is provide people with all the pre-written prompts they can copy and paste and change out whatever their specialty is. And bam, you got the answers. And so that's how I do all my newsletters. That's why it only takes 5 to 10 hours a week.
Okay. And you don't notice a difference between something that is written by AI and something that somebody would create by themselves?
So there are a bunch of different AI platforms, and some of them are designed specifically to sound more human-like. That's easy enough to fix anyway. Even with ChatGPT, what you do is you train it in your voice, right? So any writing that you already do, and I've got books that I can copy and paste chapters, put it in there, and I say, here's my voice. When you write, write in this voice, and it comes out just the way I would write it.
Okay.
I look at it, I read every one, I change a word here or there, but it's written just the way I would write it anyway. So if it sounds, I feel like it sounds like me, everybody else won't know the difference.
That's exactly what happened to me. Is I didn't know. I hated AI when I first saw it, and the content that was generating, it was just horrible. I could say, why would anybody do this? And I mentioned that to somebody I interviewed on Forward from 50, and she said, did you ever train it to write like you do? And I'm like, how do you do that? She said, send it a link to your blog and tell it to write like that. And I did. The next time they wrote a letter, I was dumbfounded with how well it mimicked my voice and tone of the ability to write. So that
I actually named my AI. I actually speak to her like she's a person. So anybody can use this name if you want to, if it makes sense. I wrote AIVA, right? So she's my virtual assistant, but she's my AI virtual assistant, and AIVA spells Ava, right? So I just call her Ava. I go, good morning, Ava. Here's what we're going to talk about today. And it feels like I'm actually communicating with, and I know I'm not, but it feels, and that feels better to me. It feels, so I say please, and I say thank you. And I know I'm talking to a computer program, but I feel better about it. I feel like I'm being courteous and kind and caring and generous.
Exactly. That's exactly right. You had mentioned that people know what to do and how they can go about doing this, but there are a bunch of people who might not know what to do as a senior to give their life meaning and purpose. And there is opportunity all around us. All people have to do is open their eyes and look for it. Do you have any tips on how people can find that kind of opportunity that gives their life more meaning and purpose?
Yeah. So one of the things that seniors seem to struggle with is and it happens subconsciously to them, so they're not aware of it. Think of that word subconscious, below the consciousness. They're not aware that it's happening. They become introverted, right? They don't go out as much. They don't have as much other human contact. And then little by little, all of a sudden they're a shut-in, and it was self-inflicted.
Yeah.
And so force yourself to get out there and connect with people, and not just on social media, but actually go have coffee with people and go for a walk in the park with people. You're going to get some exercise. You're going to get and ask questions. Think of thought-provoking questions to be able to ask the people you're going for a walk with or whatever. And then put yourself in situations where you can actually meet people. There are a lot of social groups that meet in person. And as you pointed out, volunteering is a great way to be able to do that. Find something you really care about and go volunteer, even if it's for an hour a day, Monday through Friday, or just go for the morning on Friday morning for 4 hours. And make it your business to meet people there and go, hey, Sally, we don't get a chance to talk too much while we're volunteering here. How about we grab a cup of coffee? I'd love to get to know you. And even if that's not in a romantic way at all, but just take Bill to, if you're a guy, take Bill to coffee and take Sally to coffee, and it's okay. You need that social interaction. It keeps your mind sharp, and it changes your body chemistry. Actually does.
That's right.
There's plenty of scientific proof for that.
I've heard a number of people who said that if you really don't know what to do to give your life meaning and purpose, volunteer, because that keeps you busy while you're trying to figure it out. And through volunteering with different organizations, you will encounter something that really trips your trigger, and you'll meet people who will nudge you into a specific way in which you can help other people?
I'll give you a perfect example. So my wife and I, our hobby when we met and got married 14 years ago, everybody has something. They go bowling together or something, right? Couples have something in common. For us, it was going out to dinner. So my grocery budget was $800 a month. My dining out budget was $2,500 a month. We literally went out to dinner almost every single night, sometimes went out to eat 3 times a day because we had the time on our hands and we had the money. So that wasn't an issue, except our waistlines kept getting bigger. And so one day we're climbing a set of stairs. We got to the top of the stairs and we were both winded. And probably a week later, this was about 9 years ago now, when I met my wife and I married her, she was the wedding planner at Caesar's Palace. And she was at the top of her game. This is the wedding capital of the world. Caesar's Palace was the crown jewel. She was the president of the International Wedding Professionals Association. She had arrived. She came home about 9 years ago and said, I think I want to change professions. And I'm like, I'll bite. What do you want to do? She said, I think I want to be a personal trainer. Meanwhile, we both look not like personal trainers. And so I said, I'll be your study buddy. And so we both became certified personal trainers. I lost 50 pounds. She lost 65 pounds. And at 54 years old, she actually did a bikini contest and won second place.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. So she got into physical fitness, but it never became really a full-time job. It was almost impossible for her to actually leave the wedding business because she's so sought after. So she volunteered to teach classes. She got certified in a bunch of different things, and she loves CrossFit. And so she teaches a 5:30 a.m. class Monday through Thursday. This week it was Monday through Friday, and she fills in during the week for other people when they're sick or they can't make it or whatever. All volunteer.
Oh, 5:30 in the morning.
So she's a veteran. And this is the one she volunteers for is a nonprofit. It's the only nonprofit CrossFit box in the Las Vegas Valley. And disabled veterans can go there for free and work out. So she volunteers because she's got an affinity for veterans and CrossFit. And so for her, it's a perfect fit.
That's really cool. In developing successful seniors, did you face any challenges along the way?
There was an outpouring of support, and I ended up trying to do too much. And so the challenge for me, still having plenty of energy, I'm very blessed. At 67, I don't have any illnesses of any kind. I don't have any pain in my body except when I work out a little too hard. I don't take any medications of any kind. And so and I lost all that weight. So I'm very fit and have tons of energy. So I started to really push myself and do a lot more. And I thought, I've got to kind of rein this back so that I make sure that I have time for my relationship with my wife. I have time for my children. I have kids, I have grandkids, and then some volunteering work that I do as well. So I needed to, my life got a little out of balance because I was just getting so excited and so passionate about it. So life balance is something that is a noble thing to strive for. I've been teaching it for going on 40 years now. It's a noble thing to strive for, but it's an unattainable goal. The target's always moving. And so you've got to just do the best you can, but keep things in balance, right? That was the struggle.
It sounds like you might be one of those entrepreneurs who have what they call entrepreneurial ADD, attention deficit order, that the shiny objects and it's squirrel. And you're off
So
in a
many.
different direction.
You keep saying it. There's just so many opportunities, and when your radar is set for opportunity, you see it everywhere.
What kind of rewards have you received personally from venturing into this and starting successful seniors?
There's the financial aspect, and that's been ramped up so quickly. But one of the biggest surprises is just how supportive people are, like yourself. You comment on almost every single one of my newsletters, and it's so heartwarming. And I don't know, I just didn't think of it. I just didn't expect it. I just expected to be able to put the information out. But I get so much back in confirmation that I'm doing something that really makes a difference for people. And that was a surprise.
That's neat. If you could turn the clock back, is there anything you'd do differently?
with launching Successful Seniors?
Yes, or anything.
This is the reason why I'm creating this course, is because had I known everything that I know now when I launched, what took me 3 months would have taken me about a week. So the course is designed to say, this is the order and sequence, the syntax that you need to do things. Because for instance, if you're going to start a newsletter, there are literally 8 steps before you actually sign up for Beehive, for instance, right? There are 8 steps that might take 3 or 4 days. But if you go and try to set up your newsletter on Beehive, you go, oh, and I need to go do that. So you need to stop what you're doing and then go do something else and then come back and then stop what you're doing. So if you do it sequentially, it works. It saves an enormous amount of time. Obviously, we can't roll the clock back for me, but I can roll the clock back for everybody else that I help with the course.
Okay, so you're allowing other people to learn from your mistake.
There you go. Perfect.
That's awesome.
And goodness knows I've made many of them.
One of the recent articles in your newsletter was intriguing, talking about the legacy within. What is the legacy that's within most seasoned citizens?
So sometimes here's the biggest challenge I've seen. It's not health. It's actually has more to do with meaning and purpose. So when someone's been a chiropractor for 30 or 40 years, or a janitor or a mechanic or a teacher, and they leave that occupation and retire, that has become such a large part of their identity. They feel like there's something missing and they're not quite sure what that is. And so the legacy within is whatever it was that you were doing, either for your work or for your occupations or avocations. Sometimes you're an avid windsurfer, or for me, scuba diving or motorcycle riding or things like that, or painting. You've always wanted to paint, but you were so busy with your chiropractic business that you only got a chance to paint maybe a couple hours a week. But now you can spend 20 hours a week painting, and that can come out of you. That legacy that's inside of you can come out of you. And if it's just the painting, that's fantastic. But oftentimes what happens is apprenticing is something that's used to happen in the world a lot, to pass on skills and talents. And it doesn't happen very much anymore. But if you're somebody that can take on an apprentice, the value that you give them will be life-altering for them, but it'll mean 10 times more for you. Passing on the legacy within is something that I think is so underrated and, for the most part, unknown.
I think you're right, because a lot of us confuse legacy with a financial contribution. We're going to pass on our estate to our families, and that's going to be our legacy. But the legacy is more example as well. The values and the work ethics that we pass on to our kids and our grandchildren.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super. How can people connect with you if they'd like to learn more about Successful Seniors, or simply ask a question?
Yeah, again, I respond to every email. So when someone when they sign up for my newsletter and they get an email from me, the newsletter, and they hit reply, I actually get that in my inbox and I read every one of them and I reply. So if you want to get to me, it's as simple as being able to sign up for my free newsletter, read the articles, and then send me, and I'll message you back. I'll send you an email back right away.
Okay. Are you active on any social media platform?
I am. Yep. So I'm on LinkedIn, Dr. Don on LinkedIn, and Dr. Don on Facebook.
Dr. Don. That's easy enough to find, I'm sure. So thank you very much for sharing your story with me today. I think it's inspirational. I know that you can help a lot of seasoned citizens to find more meaningful and purposeful lives, and you've got just the opportunity and venue to help them find it. So thank you again.
As do you. Thanks so much, Craig. Thanks for having me.
For Don Cote, life after 50 is not about slowing down. It's about leaning into what matters most. His journey from early success through devastating setbacks to renewed purpose has given him a unique perspective on how older adults can create deeply fulfilling second acts. Today, Don channels that hard-won wisdom into Successful Seniors Media, a platform he built to inspire, equip, and connect to people in their later years. On his platform, Don offers real practical solutions that people can start using right away. They may include simple ways to generate extra income, strategies for staying socially engaged, or ideas for sharing a lifetime of skills with others. For Don, meaning and purpose almost always involve helping others. Whether it's turning a lifelong hobby into a teaching opportunity, volunteering with a cause close to your heart, or mentoring someone who's just starting out. He believes that when you contribute to someone else's success, you also enrich your own life. Don's ultimate goal is to help seasoned citizens live their later years with vitality, creativity, meaning, and joy. He also wants them to leave a legacy that goes far beyond finances. His vision for Successful Seniors Media is an online community where people over 50 feel valued, supported, and empowered to create the kind of life they wake up excited to jump into every day. If you'd like to connect with Don, learn from his experience, or simply find fresh ideas to make your own life more meaningful, visit www.successfulseniorsmedia.com. You can sign up for his free newsletter right on the homepage. Each issue provides encouragement, tools, and inspiration that just might help you to take the next step toward your own purpose-filled second act. If you'd like to start living a more meaningful life, I encourage you to download our free guide to finding purpose, which is available at www.forwardfrom50.com. I'll have another inspirational interview on the next episode of the Forward from 50 podcast. Thanks for listening, and if you like the show, please consider leaving a review wherever you download the episodes.